Let's go to a wider scale, to the hobby itself. I mean, there are also ups and downs. I'm sure there's also like, there's one thing to making a board game. There's another thing, be a board gamer. That necessarily you don't have to be a board gamer to make board games. I hope every designer is also a board gamer, but you don't have to be. The same question like before, is there anything you really like about the board game scene or the board games in general? Maybe it's the same answer. And are there some aspects you don't like?
Well, I don't really like the tendency, right, of that market is a bit overwhelmed up to me with the games, and now the average number of how many times people play the game is 3 to 4, or even less this year.
Yeah.
This is something I heard from one board game designer, kind of statistics, I guess. You know, like you spend a lot of time on balancing, or you want to create a great game when you can play differently, but then it appears that only small part of your auditory will get to that point, you know, like that play it multiple, or they want, you know, like, oh, for example, as in Race for the Galaxy, today play Sparta, you know, like next day I play something different,
sure.
Right? And this, as for me, it becomes worse and worse. I mean, now when you try to reach a reviewer, you are somewhere in line, you know, like in a couple of months in best case, right?
Yeah.
And that means that they every couple of days they play a new game, and I hardly can imagine they go back, you know, like and play something again. And this obviously, well, everyone knows about Shelf of Shames, you know, like I don't blame anyone for that. I'm just saying that I understand the feeling when I see here, you know, like these old board games, I want to buy each of them, you know, like, but I have no chance to play it.
Yeah, but this is not a board game related problem. You have this with video games too. Somewhere I heard that the video game companies, it's slightly off topic, but they're making the first level perfectly fine, and the longer the game goes, I mean, in one hand the money goes away, they don't have time to finish the game, but the companies know that only like 20% will see the last level of the game, so why even care?
Yes.
The first level must be bam, and later, who cares? Only 20% will see it. And when you look at the statistics on Steam, like 4% see the ending of a game. That's really hard, you know.
True.
There's also like millions on the table and hours of man and woman power, and they're playing the first level. And with board games, it's really the same. Especially when you have like a heavy title where it's meant to be played more often, that you know the gears and find out some strategies. And most people playing one time and say, it's not good, the game. Yes. Well, you don't give it a chance to grow.
Yes.
That's the problem. And I'm also obviously firing this up a little bit with my store, but I mean, we're making a jokes, there can't be too many games, but they can. There comes like 1,000 games every year. It's
yes.
I'm always talking about, and this would be a question later, but we can do it now. I'm often thinking about like a bubble. Everything is a bubble nowadays, and I have the feeling, and maybe I'm pessimistic, but I'm from Vienna, so we are naturally pessimistic. I have the feeling that the bubble is very big, and I don't know if it will burst like the video games in the, what was it, 70s, 80s, 60s, but there are many good companies who know how to sustain the bubble. But sooner or later there must be happening something, because you cannot put game after game after game after game into the market and everything will be fine. There must be some problems sooner or later. Or how do you see that? No,
fortunately, I don't have solution for that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm as you usually don't throw board games. Who the hell throws board games, right?
Sure.
Your shelf will be growing and growing. You know, like either you will stop buying those, right? I mean, which I hardly believe, but anyway. So that will influence the market, or I don't see what can happen instead. You know, like either they will start, you know, like indeed throwing the old games, or. But on the other hand, we we underestimate the other markets, right? So there are Asian markets, there are African markets, right?
Yeah.
So I think sooner or later it will come there more, you know, like probably in Asia is probably no worse than here now. But it will, you know, like the population grows at the end, you know. So maybe we just spread it across the world. This is what I believe.
Yeah, I have just a feeling that when you have so much variety, you get to a point where there's basically no variety when it comes to the publishers, because a smaller publisher cannot really get the money back from the products because there's so much.
Yep.
So they have to give up, or a bigger one swallow them, and then you have like 2 or 3 big players, and that's it. I don't say now this is this must be a bad thing, but it can. Yeah. I mean, I know many people in like Asmodee, and I like them a lot. But if you are that big, you have some power.
That's true.
And no one stops you to use this power.
That's true.
Yeah, and this is always, for me as a free thinker, a bad thing to some degree. But I feel like now we are not really in danger. Or do you think we are at the edge of well, there will be something happen in the next years?
I will say in 1 or 2 years. I mean,
Really?
if you see us succeeding at least to some point, that means there is still a space for newcomers, right?
Sure.
Sometimes I think that we are, you know, like we have a ticket to the last carriage, right? To the last car. I mean.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, I'm too young in this business in order to know these things, right?
Yeah,
so let us see. Let's hope for the best.
Yeah, that's a nice answer. Now to a funny question. I always wanted to ask this a designer. If you can say a board game that already existed, you could, how to say this in English? Tell us a game you would like to be the publisher from it, or the designer.
No, publisher and designer are two different.
Okay, let's say designer.
Publisher, I want to be of many games.
Yeah, sure, obviously, yeah. No, designer.
That's quite funny, by the way, because now we need to think what to publish next Spiel, what to release next Spiel. Now we are obliged to do that, right? So we are making jokes that now we probably need to find for board game designers and publish their games if we don't manage to do our own. As for a board game designer, well, I cannot say that I would like to be an author of some of the existing board games, obviously, right? Because but there are games that I extremely respect.
Okay,
right?
Okay, let's put it that way.
So, I mean, I would like to be something like similar or a part of that. You know, that maybe in that means, right? So, for example, for me, one of the major game changers is Dominion. I'm not sure if the engine builder, you know, like was the first implemented in Dominion. I'm unfortunately not that aware of that. However, it's definitely something that came to the public market, right? So, and for me, it's my dream to create a mechanics as not a good set of existing mechanics, but create something like different in principle, you know, like some new. When you start, you think it's quite easy. You can do that and that and that, but then you come up either with issues that were solved by the solution that you have now already existing, or you see that you simply didn't know about that, right? So it already exists in many games, and you see this in more games. So that's quite tricky. I mean, but there's something new in principle. This is something I would really like to do. Okay. On the other hand, as I mentioned, my favorite game is still Seven Wonders Classics. I never even tried to play extensions for that. I played Duel as well, and it's also a very good game. However, I still like the original the most. And this is a good example for me how you can create out of like quite easy rules, relatively easy rules. The good game that at the same time was good, you know, like in terms of a setup. And it also reflects what is happening in the world. For example, if in Seven Wonders Duel, you both play war, you both invest into war, at the end of the game you will find out that you have a low number of points, you know, like if you finish not the war. And this is what is indeed happening in the world, right?
True, that's true. There are many people in the business out there who have a big name. Are there any you consider them as an idol for you? You really like looking looking up to them, or you take them as a how to say, like a, you want to be like them. It sounds weird, like in German it's called Vorbild. You want to be like them, like let's say Ignacy Jevicek or Vladimir Suchy or Jamie Stegmaier or any name who are famous in our
Bowser,
for example.
Well, not really. I mean, luckily, these board game designers, they are, you know, like, they are not celebrities. They are famous to some extent, and this is exactly the maximum I want to be limited for. You know, like, I don't want to go to public too much. I want to, you know, like, it's okay to be in some particular geeks audience, you know, to be famous inside. But, and I know nothing about them. You know, like, I have no idea. Are they good people or not? You know, like, they make great games. I see them from time to time, you know, like on giving some interviews or something. But unfortunately, I don't even have time, you know, like to play their games sometimes, not to see how they live or what they think. You know, like. So no, definitely I don't have an idol, and no one I want to be look like, or something. But there are definitely people that I respect. Yes, and by seeing what they have made. Right?
Sure. This is not your first project, yeah?
No.
So when you think about back to your first project, I'm sure everyone makes experience in doing things over and over. When you look back to your first project, what are you still happy with the first project, or are there any things you would change now, or would you do it differently?
Yes, my first project is still my favorite project.
Really?
Yes. I still think this is our best game with Euch, still. However, yes, I will change a lot. I mean, we were working on that one at that time when this idea came to me. However, at that time I already realized how difficult it is to reach publishers, and that one is a bit more complex. I mean, it's Euro style, and it's, you know, like, it is supposed to be longer, you know, like, and heavier. So that's why I offered to reject, to postpone that one for the time being, and to come up with something simpler and faster. Didn't really help, but anyway, at least we came to the end.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really dream of getting back to that game and like trying to publish it again
and
as well.
Making a little bit of a refurbish, or like updating the rules or something like that.
Yes, definitely. It's not fully finished. That's true. I mean, it's playable already. You can play it, and you might even not notice that it's a prototype if it's, you know, like, was already drawn. However, it's not finished, it's not properly tested, it's not balanced enough. There is a lot of things to do, but now I think that I will go back to origin and change everything that I made mistakes with.
Are there really mistakes, or is like, because I think as a designer you also change. You have different favorites, different style, like 5 years ago, you know what I mean? So do you think there are really like, okay, I've tried my best, but nowadays I know it better? Or is it more like of nowadays I have a different style and that's why you have to change?
Well, I will tell you what. Now I'm just looking at that as the position how to sell that game. This is step number 3, I can call it. First, you create something that is playable.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun. You do it. Your family is happy with that. You know, like they say, well, it's a good game. You know, like it's better than many games that we have. And that even might be true, you know, like, but then the second step is to create something which is playable, you know, like for many people, you know, like around. And this is this game. I'm sure it's playable because I already have evidence for that on Spiel, right? So, but this is still, even here, if I came back to Space Expatriate, probably I would design it in a different way if it was only the beginning now. And the third step is to listen to the market and to understand what market needs. And the market, in my opinion, now needs like 2 things from the game. First, relatively new mechanics that you can put into 1 or 2 sentences. not I mean entirely new mechanics, but something that you can, as I mentioned, like something that you can describe in 1 or 2 sentences, and this can catch, you know, like players. And second is a good setup, which can also pull the audience, which doesn't care about mechanics that much, but they want to try something, you know, like that. So I'm sorry. So the good example for that was our neighbors on Releases show on Spiel were guys who raised on Kickstarter a game about huskies.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And how can you fail with the game about huskies, right? So that was, I mean, I haven't played the game, so I have no idea if it's good or bad, but I mean, I saw their theme and I said, like, damn it, yes, you know, like
that itself sells the copies.
Yes.
Yeah,
how could I miss that Kickstarter campaign, right?
Regarding self-publishing, I mean, we know already the difference between a publisher or self-publishing, but tell us a little bit how this works. I mean, do you write emails to China, to different companies, and how to find them even? Except at Spiel, there were some companies, much more companies than last time I was there, but that's just a side note.
Yes.
I know how to do it with the game bricks I have here in the store, but with board games, I mean, I'm sure there are companies who are specialized for meeples, specialized for whatever. So, but how do you do that? Because a big company like Asmodee, they have their people, but you're sitting at home and thinking, okay, I need someone who makes me a starter dealer button. How do you start even? So tell us a little bit about this process.
Well, I repeat myself, but nothing can stop you from doing that. Now, these guys are the only ones who are chasing you instead of you are chasing someone when you publish a game, right? So once we published, you know, like, we announced our company and our games on Spiel at the same time, you know, like multiple manufacturers from China came to our, like, oh, let's try. Also, I went and tried a couple more. Myself, I found them, but again, you have lists now simply, you know, like, and even the best ones are still quite okay. I mean, like, I expected they have like crazy prices, and I was still looking for something, you know, like smaller players, but no, they are totally fine. They have everything, you know, like they send you a prototype even before, you know, like making the whole thing, you know, like, so you will know, like physically you can touch it and see how it will look like, you know, and step by step you can do it, providing that you have a company without. I mean, like without a company, without a VAT number, it might be quite tricky, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, they still can do that. But imagine how much you will lose, you know, like when you don't send it declare this an expenses and etc. Right?
I saw with Jamie Stegmaier, he once mentioned like there's something like a catalog you can go through. Like when you say, hey, I want you to make me some cards. And then you get some samples and like, okay, I can choose this and this with these edges and these edges. Did you get something like that, like a catalog, or you can like pick and choose, or or is this just a negotiation with like talking, or how can you? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we call it vegetables. These are samples that you can easily get on Spiel, for example. Just come to any Chinese guy, say like, I am working on a board game, that they usually give it to you for free. Okay. Just together with business cards, so it's no issues with that. I mean, like, I wanted to say I have no experience in selecting. I didn't have a catalog, but you tell them what you want, and if you're not sure, you just say this is as usual, as common, as everyone does, you know, like, and they will do it for you, right? If you need something more specific, this is what we need for a drinking game. That was quite interesting. I mean, we asked them about the material, and this is their area. And sometimes they were not even sure, you know, like what to suggest to us. So we had to make a research ourselves, and also, you know, like to ask what about this material and what about that material, you know, like so. It might be quite tricky, but if you create something, you know, like more common, where you have only this part of I don't know, tokens and this and this, then I mean, you just say as everyone, you just select the size of the card, and you do it probably by just a gut feeling if you're a beginner, you know, like, and you have no idea. Sure. Yeah, just remember that you pay for the whole deck of the cards even if half of it is empty. Just the golden rule of everything, right? So, and then And by the way, I wanted also to mention that finally we didn't publish in China, we did it in Poland.
Okay.
Yes, because I was, as I mentioned, I was very limited on time, and I already opened contracts in Poland, so was the only chance for us to succeed.
Okay.
And they were really flexible. They accepted component by component because the cards take more time to produce and some other stuff. So this is how we succeeded.
Okay.
And even I will tell you something that we agreed that I picked the boxes in Poland myself 3 days before Spiel. You know, and well, maybe like 3 or 5 days, something like that. And a week before that, my friend found a mistake on one of the components.
Okay.
Yes, I checked the components, I don't know, 1,000 times, but you know, like you still sometimes you look in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And it was quite confusing. It wasn't a grammar issue. It was a wrong heading of the section. So it will hurt players because this is usually read by new players, right? And so this was kind of important. So I thought it's the end. I mean, not the end. I would go anyway to Spiel with that.
Sure.
Anyway, but I mean, like I thought, like I will have to go like that. But then I decided why I decided this is the end, right? So I made 100 calls the next day, and the factory accepted the revised component, the corrected one, and made everything on time together with packing all the boxes into the van. So
okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, like that's why. By the way, this is a good advertisement for them. It's Axel. Yeah, so.
Especially this is one of the positive things when you make it here in Europe or especially in Poland, because would it be China, you would have to be waiting like months.
Yes,
when it comes per ship, or okay, they can send it via plane, but even then you have to wait like 10 days minimum.
Yes.
So this would be impossible.
But even worse, it can get stuck on customs, and this is how many releases fail on Spiel. They are announced, but at the end they didn't pass the customs. Yeah. By the way, one of the reasons I wanted to avoid to publish the game in Europe, because I wanted to avoid dealing with customs. Because I mean, like as I'm doing everything on myself, right, together with Alex, right? So for us, everything that you think is obvious, for us it's not, because you come to details. For example, do you know which kind of symbols need to be on the box? You know, like, or I don't know what is the size of the box, and you know, etc. And in order to import something into European Union, you need another number, you know, like for that. So you need to apply for one in Austria here, you know, like in order to get that. But I anyway had to do that at the end because I have a metal token there, and metal token is the only thing that came from Africa.
Okay.
So
this is what I wanted to ask you, because you were telling us about, it's easy, you just pick and choose like everyone else. But I know from Spiel, and you were very proud of it, let's say put that way. Let's put it that way. There is like this metal token inside, and I was thinking to myself, now this couldn't be done in Poland like everything else.
It could be done in Poland, but much more expensive. This thing is not I mean, maybe there might be manufacturers that I am not aware of simply.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, these kind of things. I found a dealer in Europe, and what he sent to me was good. It looked good, right? So I thought it's somehow manufactured in Europe, but at the end it appeared, you know, like the tax office sent me a message like, oh, you have, you know, like a delivery, you know, or something. So what should we do now? And I said like, so I have, and they asked me to declare what inside and etc. Exactly what I wanted to avoid, you know, like. Yeah, exactly. And I contacted this company that I ordered from. And they said like, and I told like, oh, so it's arrives, please, can you declare everything and put it? They said like, no, I mean, we cannot do that. Only the owner of the cargo can do that. I said like, oh, that might be an issue. And I said like, but you know, there is a number, the import number, so to say, you know, like, and I need to put something and I don't have one. Say like, sorry, but you need one. Okay. So I applied to the tax office, you know, like, but luckily this time Austria was very good. I mean, they issued very fast.
No, I also have this EORI number, it's called.
Exactly.
I have them too, because I made some custom sets for my other business, and this was the fastest thing I've got
True.
in Austria.
True.
Like everything else, you have to wait like literally weeks.
Yes.
But this I've got like 2 or 3 days.
Yes, and apply it online probably.
Yes,
huh?
exactly,
Which never happens in Austria.
Great, yeah, it's great. I mean, the customs otherwise are sometimes a pain, but this was fine.
Yes.
This was
But
fine.
that's what I'm saying. You know, like nothing can stop you from doing that after you have a
That's
game.
really true. That's really true.